Hi Friends is a podcast hosted by me, Dallas Wilson, cannabis enthusiast and Black Indigenous artist. Join me each week as I use cannabis with guests. Hi Friends is all about providing a safe, judgment-free space for Black and Indigenous folks to have a meeting of the minds. Through these herbal chats, we will be learning and gaining new tools to have healthier, healing conversations in the moment. Thank you for tuning in, and happy smoking! Hi friends!
Hello? Hi!
Get it all set up right. Hold on.
Yeah?
My puppy is whimpering in the background, but he will stop eventually. You just kind of have to let him do his thing.
What's your puppy's name?
Conch, like a conch shell,
Ah!
which I so stereotypically have right in the background here.
I have one on my dresser as well. I feel that.
Oh my God, you do. See, now that I've said his name, he's like, hold on though. He'll settle down. I'm trying to the whole no talk, no touch when they're doing something you don't no eye contact. But it's hard when he's doing all that. But
it's fine. For now, let's just we can just catch up and then I'm sure he'll start settling down.
We'll do our just French banter and then we'll get into the good stuff when the baby goes to sleep.
So how did you choose St. Croix and when did you go?
St. Croix basically chose me. And it was January of last year, right? And I still hadn't had a job. My website that I was at, they ended up folding in September of, I want to say 2019. So I was kind of just, floating, didn't have anything to do yet. And my aunt, who was living here already, because her and my uncle, they retired here. And my uncle's from the Caribbean, so they came back basically. She sent me kind of half jokingly, a text well, the paper here is hiring. Yeah. It was January. I wasn't, hearing positive stuff back from anywhere else. I really thought something was going to manifest in LA, but they were just taking too long to get back to me. And I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I've never been. Why not? I'll do it for a year or two. I don't have to be there forever.
Yeah.
And I ended up applying and it just worked out really magically. And now I'm here. And I got here in February towards the end. So right when I got here, things were starting to lock down and COVID was starting to become the reality that it is now. So I feel I got here in the nick of time because I don't know.
Girl, when you went to St. Croix, that's when I was coming back from Thailand. And I felt my world was shattering. It was, I'm sure in St. Croix, you feel being by the ocean, being in the tropics, the heat, the culture, the people, everything is probably filling your spirit up, right?
It is.
And especially
it just is. It's crazy.
Especially compared to what we were experiencing and what we are experiencing here in the States. I really, when I started living abroad, first in Northern Ireland for my master's degree and studying abroad and stuff, and then to Thailand.
Sagittarius.
Yeah. I was I need to travel.
Right, all these different adventures.
Mm-hmm. And it never stops. And I feel now I'm back in the States and I'm trying to keep that adventure spirit going and that culture experience going of trying to learn about, different languages and other ways of living and stuff here. But I'm telling you, I'm desperate to get out, and it's been over a year. So it's been over a year that you've been in St. Croix, and how
you need a passport to come here. So for Americans looking to get out, you don't need a passport. Just come
on a real level, what is the job situation there? Is it easy to work freelance, or do you have to?
So, I actually feel I think if you were in media, Patch just started here. So I feel and there's quite a few other brands out here, apart from my own that I work for. So I think you could probably figure something out if you were a writer. Yeah. This place is known for writers. Audre Lorde famously, died here actually because she just fell in love with it.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I live walking distance from the Women's Coalition that she founded. So it is very writerly. I think artists, there's definitely, musicians. I think as the territory continues to, wake up, There'll definitely be hospitality jobs. A lot, the restaurant industry here is very big. So if you want to do something like that, I know a lot of people when they're kind of young in their 20s, they might go work at a hotel in a different country just to do that vibe. So that could be here, So.
And also, like, just firstly, it's great speaking with you. I think the last time we spoke and saw each other was at like high school graduation, I think.
Probably, right. Yeah. Yes, because I think weren't we next to each other?
We were next to each other. I was having like an emotional meltdown. And I remember you just like turned behind and you gave me like a hug. And then remember at Merriweather, they have like the video cameras and the big projectors. And it's just like me like, like.
It was an emotional day. So I get it. Yeah. I mean, it was graduation. Nobody knew what was going to happen next, right? Like.
And where did you go after high school?
I went to Howard County Community College for like a year, and I was a dog groomer, and that was a very weird time in my life. And then I kind of thought like, all right, now I need to get my shit together and go to like real college. So then I went to Washington College on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and that's where I graduated from. And then I took an internship in D.C. at Washingtonian. Then I was at Baltimore Style Magazine, obviously in Baltimore. And then I just kind of bounced around, did the freelance thing for like Baltimore Sun Media Group, Washington Post Express. Then I found myself at the website that I was at, Think Progress, for about 2 years essentially before they folded us. So that's been that was like my whole 20s, like career-wise.
Wow. And you've done so much. I was like thinking about, like, I'm 29 now, and in November I'll be 30. And I was just like, oh damn, like, I did a lot of like, I think travel and interpersonal, like self-growth kind of stuff. But I'm in a place now where I think I'm shifting my attention to like leaving behind like a legacy, like having tangible things that I've done, like work and, my writing. I've been doing freelance writing for a diabetes company called T1D Exchange. And so that's been cool that, they found me. And honestly, I think they needed some Blackness on their staff. And I'm just like, talking about like race and working and all that stuff. It's been interesting kind of having my work. I don't know if you've experienced this, like, but balancing, trying to be authentic in your writing style and point of view, right? And being authentic with the stories you're telling, and the way you're telling it. And then having maybe a bigger organization trying to police your work, really, like.
That's essentially why I think Progress isn't here, but not necessarily because they sort of, they kind of got bullied into submission with a few different situations. We wrote honestly about both the Republicans and the Democrats, right? And it's when we wrote a little too honestly about the Democrats that there was some backlash, because it kind of looks like Center for American Progress had an agenda for maybe certain Democrats and not others, which wasn't really the case. That wasn't like what we were trying to do. We just got caught in between it. And so they eventually, one of those things where they just kind of didn't want to have to keep dealing with those situations. So they closed us all together, unfortunately. So we definitely know, like on a big level, what that pressure can feel like and what you sometimes have to end up losing if you just stick to your guns, though,
Right. Yes. And I wanted to like ask you about that as well. Hold on, I'm going to close my window. About just, I guess on a smaller scale, just being a Black woman in the workplaces, like in the offices that you've worked in and things like that, and just the kind of like interpersonal things. Like, I think we talked a little bit on Instagram about some like work dynamics that had gone on, and like maybe that was more interpersonal, but like the professional level as well. Like how was it working for you in these professional environments, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I would say, without saying specifically which ones maybe, but there was one in particular where I was working under a white woman in her 40s, and it was just everything my mom had ever said. about what it's like to work around white women. You kind of think, you know, when you're younger, I'm like, all right, angry Black lady. Like, you just don't know. But everything she said was just true. And I mean, you've known me since I was 9. Would you ever think that I'm like an aggressive person?
No.
Would you ever think? So the fact that during a professional meeting, one of my bosses had to kind of stop to be like, why are you getting so pissed? And me and the other person in the meeting were both like that. Like, she's not, I'm just like reiterating what you're not understanding. But because I'm not having the right emotional response to you, you're being threatened. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, your tone is too intense. Like,
right. And you immediately understand what's happening when those moments happen. And you kind of feel a little hopeless when you're like 23. You don't really know what to do at first, but yeah, so it definitely started kind of right away. And I mean, working for like fashion magazines and, you know, in the editorial world, there's definitely a brand of woman that succeeds, you know, that girl boss vibe.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a brand that kind of doesn't. And they kind of tend to look more like us, you know? So I was kind of disheartened kind of early on with just the way certain things went between me. You know, there'd be me, I'd have the exact same experience as a white girl, and maybe even more of an interest in fashion, yet she's the one that got, you know, the job, or, you know, things like that. And you just kind of start paying attention. At first you think it's me, it's my skill level. And then after a while, you finally start to realize it's not. It's this inability to really see me that they have.
Because you see the outside first and you're not seeing the spirit, you're not seeing the work that I've done, you're not seeing,
I remember
you know.
just feeling completely ignored by this one fashion editor. I was sort of gunning for her assistant job along with, you know, another white counterpart. And I remember I was like standing there carrying a bunch of stuff, and she was having a discussion with someone else, you know, another, you know, senior member, talking about how she was ready to hire that other person. And I'm just sitting here like, what do I have to do to be noticed by you? I was literally wearing the same things that she was coming in the office with. And it's like, can't you see that I am the perfect whatever, you know? And of course, that girl had no interest in fashion. Just, you know, she just wasn't a white girl.
Right.
So, definitely.
And the space, the where you're working now, like, so is it all Black staff where you're working?
It is. It's an entirely Black staff. It's an independently owned newspaper. It's the oldest paper here. I think Alexander Hamilton once wrote in this paper, apparently. That's what I've been told. But and it's completely Black run. My boss is a Black woman millennial, and she's just amazing. I haven't had a bad experience with her yet. I had my first article of them as a front page article. Like, it's just, that's what it, you know, what the difference it makes. So.
And that is like an experience that, like, so coming back to the States and being reintroduced to like how we are pretty much ignored here as Black people, and our I don't know, our opportunities just like really aren't here. You know, I was in Thailand and I was in Northern Ireland and I was like doing stuff. I was getting published as well in like articles and like editorials, and I was doing
in Ireland.
In
Ireland, what was that like? Like being a Black woman over there?
I mean, I definitely stuck out, like, you know, a lot. And I feel like I was coming into it thinking.
If I spark up, is it too early?
Oh, yes. So I was thinking, can we just like start I'll splice it together with editing or something.
He's finally given up the ghost. So.
So I start every episode with like checking in with my blood sugar. Normally I have a monitor, like a continual glucose monitor, but I'm waiting for the prescriptions on my next order.
Wow.
Also, healthcare in America is not my favorite right now, but
I mean, no, it's a joke, honestly. Yeah. It's just like health pay. It's not healthcare.
Yes, health pay. If you don't have the money, if you don't have the resources.
It doesn't matter. Even if you don't have the money, you somehow still end up having to pay. It's ridiculous.
All right, gang, I'm 145. So started off with 145. That's in range. That's pretty good. What are you smoking today, Courtney?
So this, I actually forget what it is, but it's some beautiful, lovely homegrown Caribbean thing. So.
Ooh, I want to start growing my own. I'm like very impressed.
Here are plentiful and they're kind. They're usually related to someone you know. They're very sweet. you'll never be out of weed here.
I know, yes. This is part of what makes me like go to certain places. I'm like, can I get weed? Is it?
Yeah.
How is it?
Yeah.
All right, today I'm smoking vanilla frosting.
Ooh.
Yeah, vanilla frosting.
I do miss the like packaging vibe from the States. I'm trying to like, I feel like plugs, like you can do that yourself here. You can get cute little bags and like personalize it.
I'm like all about, I'm trying to be like way more eco-friendly. So actually to me, this like breaks my soul when I have like papers, bags, like, you know, all that stuff. I'm like, why can't we just have like brown paper baggies?
Well, you could love it out here. I have gotten weed in a Chinese food takeout container.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten it in usually a lot of just the glass jars. Points if you have your own, because oftentimes you're just like driving and you'll see your plug. Like, wait, you know what? I was meaning to call you. Let's just do this now because I don't know where you're going to be in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
You're at the gas station. And then you just buy your drugs. And here, the biggest adjustment for me actually were the police, because it's like a 95%, almost 99% all Black police force. And they just do not over criminalize. I mean, you can be smoking weed and wave at a cop and he'll just wave by. You know, it's fine.
I was going to ask about that because I feel conflicted. Like we saw what was happening in, was it Nigeria with the police state? And how like, well, for me, I just believe all policing you should be abolished, you know? It's like absurd and it stems back to human enslavement, you know?
It's interesting here. They like to call them peacemakers. They don't really like to refer to them as police. It's kind of like they are already trying to like deviate and rebrand that here. And you can just feel it because they really do just de-escalate things here. They don't show up with their guns out, you know? You don't hear about any police brutality here like that.
But do they carry guns or like batons?
I mean, they do.
Yeah. In Northern Ireland, when I was out in the UK, they didn't have guns. I think they might have had taser. I don't know. I don't even know if they had that, but they had batons. And I remember every country that I go to, it's like the conditioning when you're able to like step out of yourself and like see what your environment and culture has done, you know, or imprinted on you. Like going abroad, anytime I saw anyone in uniform, I was just like, like, you know, triggered.
I just like, I'm checking everything I'm doing. And then I'm like, wait, they're not, even when I'm at a traffic stop and like a cop will drive up, I'm like, then I remember, wait. I don't have to do that here. They're not like that.
When I lived in Thailand, so they have military, and that's like the police kind of situation there. And it's highly corrupt. And a lot of people pay off the military, pay off the police to kind of get some stuff done. Like, so I was smoking marijuana. I had a bunch of plugs, like people who would like drive to my house, people I would meet up with, whatever. There's also a bar in Chiang Mai where I was living, and the bar was a bar, but also the woman who owned it was like a Thai mafioso, just like a lovely, beautiful goddess of a woman.
That's the story. I love it. Please.
Her name was Mama. We called her Mama, and she would always like, you would come in and she would scope you up and down, give you like an ocular pat down, and then if she liked you, she'd be like, ooh, sexy. And just like you want some weed? It's just like sit down, and you just have all these conversations with her. And so like I found out that she was like, the way things like that worked, because weed is not legal in Thailand, so you would just like have an arrangement, you know, with the military. And you know, when you start to observe this, you start to become a little, I think, ballsy. For me, and I'm a fire sign as well, so I was like, okay, so there's ways to get around this whole police state thing. Like in America, I would never do half the stuff that I was doing in Thailand. Like they had police checks on the road where like it was basically a way for them to catch foreigners. If your foreigner wasn't wearing a helmet, if they didn't have a Thai driver's license, which is kind of a complex situation to get. And a lot of foreigners, when they come, they're just going to rent a motorbike and they're not going to get the license and stuff like that. So they would pull you over to get money, you know, pretty much. This is kind of like, oh, you didn't do your insurance, you didn't do your tax, like what, 500 baht, 300 baht, 1,000 baht, like, you know. And I am always poor. In every country I am, it doesn't matter. I'm just like, my money situation is never working out. So, and I was a teacher in Thailand. So teacher salary, I was like, the fuck, these military gonna take my money, my $500.
Yeah.
So I would always like, I would drive up to them and I would kind of slow down and I would like act as if I was like stopping, gun it and like bust through. And all of my friends, when they would see me doing this, they're like, holy shit, like you can't do this. I'm like, yeah, you can. Like in America, they would just like shoot me. Like in Thailand,
you dead.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. In Thailand, you would see videos of like the military like sticking their feet out and knocking people off of their bikes, which is horrible and like super dangerous. But it's definitely a lot different than like shooting someone point blank. Yeah. So
I mean, right? Because at the end, they're still alive. You know.
Yeah, and it was just interesting thinking about how that fear of police, like it goes throughout, you know. I went to France as well and I was really nervous, but I feel like they're overtly racist there, you know, in France.
That's actually when we talked too, because I remember there was like a bombing and I knew that you were there.
I was there.
You being like, hey, what's up?
So during the Bataclan bombing, I was with my MFA group. So in Northern Ireland, I was getting my master's in photography. And every year we went to Paris to the Grand Palais. They have this big festival called Paris Photo. So it's beautiful. You go to the Grand Palais, there's like artwork everywhere. And this was right in the area that the Bataclan was. And so we had all done this event that day. And then me and my boyfriend at the time, who was in the master's course, we had rented an Airbnb. So we had all separated, you know, and then we went back. And I remember late at night hearing stuff. I remember hearing like in the distance, and I was just like, you know, when your body just feels weird energy and you get goosebumps, but you just dismiss it. You're like, okay, it was kind of like that. And then we heard sirens and all that stuff. Meanwhile, I hadn't tapped in. I wasn't really big on Instagram at this time. I wasn't really on Facebook. So it was my family that WhatsApped me and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, me and Tim, we're just chilling. We're kicking it. We're having some wine. Everything's good, you know?
And they're like, found out about it, essentially.
That's how I found out. Yeah. Like my parents.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they were like, didn't you hear about the bombing? And I was like, the fuck, no. And so my ex and I, like, we were like on like watching the news and stuff like that. And then everything started to and then we started really hearing sirens and everything for like hours into the morning. And then there was supposed to be a second day of this festival. And I don't remember if we did it or not. I remember feeling nervous. I remember being on the tube and like the train system and like looking around and just being nervous and being like, you know, it just to be away from your family, you know, and to have like a big life thing happen. It's pretty intense, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. I would be so nervous. Yeah. Do you have any, I don't know, do you have anything like left over from that? Like, do you ever worry about things like that now happening again? I feel like I would take a minute to like go back out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, since then, I'm trying to think, like, I've done this thing since I was a kid. So, you know, I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 7. So at 7, that's kind of really when your reality of life and death kind of came to be. And I know you with your heart condition, and like, I wanted to talk to you about that as well. When you're young and you have, you know, health things going on, your mortality is visible to you. And
yeah,
so, like, since being young, I have kind of just told myself, if I've ever gotten into situations that have seemed like dangerous or life or death or whatever, or I'm really frightened or heightened or whatever, I always tell myself, this isn't how you die. Like, this isn't it. This isn't how you die. So I remember like there were times in Thailand with like, you know, like bad weather or motorbike accidents and stuff like that. You know, I had like a lot of kind of like near death experiences, but I just, every single time I tell myself, this isn't how you die. Like, you know, and so And to be honest, like, who knows really how I die, but it's just like in my head, all these situations, like, no, this isn't it. Yeah. So
like, nope. It
yeah.
kind of reminds me of Big Fish, because I feel like the dad in that, didn't he get like a prophecy of of how he was going to die? So that's how he knew that he could just go do all the stuff that he did, because he was like, I'm not
one of my favorite movies. Hell yes. Yeah.
So that just made me think of that. That's interesting. I feel like, yes, I definitely was always kind of aware of just certain things, maybe in a different way. I feel that. But I also just feel kind of divinely lucky. And I actually had a psychic like confirm that for me. She was like, oh yeah, no, there's like this special green light around you, and like explain what that was. And I was like, oh. But I have always felt lucky in the sense that I've always missed like really catastrophic things by like simply making a decision, but I should have been there if I hadn't made that choice. Like when I worked at a boutique, there was a horrible flash flood that just like decimated all of Main Street, Ellicott City. Like it was like ground zero. Yeah. And it was one of those things where like I got to leave early, and I remember just like getting out of there within like 30, 40 minutes of it really coming down, and just thinking like, oh. And I've always had those kinds of moments where I've like been somewhere, left, and then boom, something happens. And so it's like kind of similar to like, I know that's not how, but it's like, I don't know. I just feel kind of like, all right, something is going on where like I need to stay here. Or in fact, we were T-boned by a truck going full speed and like almost toppled over, like should not have walked out of that accident in Arizona, like right before New Year's. And yet here we are. And it's like when things like that happen to me, I always just think like, I must really need to be here for something. Yeah. Because why do I keep defying these things that just keep getting thrown at me? This is so interesting. So
I wanted to talk about that as well. I seem to like, so Courtney and I went to elementary, middle, and high school together. And in fact, I was just looking through the yearbook, and we were in like the same second grade class and everything. And yeah. So through time, you know, I've moved abroad and lived abroad, and like you've, you know, been through Maryland, and you first moved to Colorado, actually, right? Like, is that where you're born?
Well, so my family is all from Colorado, and then my parents moved to Maryland. So I'm actually the only person born in Maryland. So, but I go to Colorado a lot just to visit like my grandfather and stuff. So I am always there. So it seems, I know people are always like, are you from Colorado? Like it just seems like it, because I mean, I literally have Boulder, the coordinates for Boulder tattooed like right here. So it's like,
dope. Okay. So we met in Maryland, and like I'm a transplant. Like I came from California, and and I've seen like over the years, like through like your social media, how you've gotten in tune with spirituality and astrology. And this is something that has like found its way to me as well. Yeah. And I love it because, you know, you meet some people who don't believe in it at all. And like with that disbelief in astrology, I feel like comes with a disbelief in like higher vibration, higher spirituality, and like the belief that like ancestors and energy, like that we're divinely guided, you know, through all this. And I feel like you would be someone who believes in that as well. So would you like say that some of your kind of near death or kind of missing these moments that could be very harmful have been like your ancestors being like, no, we got you?
Oh, 1,000%. And not to get like too woo-woo, but I've actually started exploring like praying to my grandmothers.
Yes.
And I've been reading about like how to do this properly. And it's been and I feel like since I've started doing that, like my anxiety, I don't know, I feel a lot more grounded to like include them, like these maternal forces. And it just kind of felt like, I remember the first time I did it, it felt like they both were like, finally she's talking to us, like, oh my gosh. And you know, I'm named after, you know, Kay is my paternal grandmother. So it's just like, I'm out here with her name, you know, I felt like she was wanting to and she's a Gemini. So she's kind of like, can we discuss her? You know, so I just feel kind of like, if you sort of get like validation almost through them, like once you start to really accept that they are there, all it really takes, I mean, even Coco was trying to teach us, all it really takes is remembering them in whatever way that is for you. And for me, you know, praying definitely is how I make that connection. But yeah. But
when's the next time you're coming out to Maryland?
so I'm going to be in Maryland actually for Mother's Day.
Oh, that's soon.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised.
Oh, your mom's going to be so happy. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything planned?
Well, she doesn't know actually, so I hope I don't give her a stroke though. Gonna be like appearing in the night, like hey. But I do definitely want to do like a typical like Columbia Day. I want to get my Starbucks, my Chipotle. I miss it, and maybe some Taco Bell. I don't care.
And treat yourself.
I need to get like a Smoothie King. Like I just miss it. Like just all those things. And then, you know, I think I need one good like DC brunch moment, and then I think I'll be fine.
Hell yeah.
I also saw like the Smithsonian's are going to be open like that week that I get there, and I'm like, I just feel like, okay, cool. One of my friends like is going to be opening a store like that week too, so it just is like the perfect time for me to be coming back. So
I'm excited for you. I hope it's a great trip. I'm going to have to look up this whole working in St. Croix situation. You know, like I'm a writer as well, photographer, videographer. So I'm like, let me get my tropical life back. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me with Hi Friends. Do you have any social media plugs, websites? You said you're on Twitter.
Well, I have a website. It's kwicker.com. But right now, my social media is all private, which I'm trying to decide if I might ever do a public Twitter. But I'm starting to feel like I don't know that I like love that as much anymore. You know?
Okay.
Like,
okay.
Keep your unfiltered thoughts to yourselves, people. Like, people need to really watch what they tweet. It's like just don't do it, or just go private and then do whatever you want. You know.
And what can we find on your website? Like, what kind of work is on there?
So a lot of my writing is there, and I'm actually getting ready to start making some moves with writing, and I'm going to be relaunching it, and I have some stuff kind of in the feelers, so it'll be happening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for joining me with Hi Friends.
Thank you for having me. This was very fun.
Awesome. Okay, well, have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk soon, okay?
Bye.
And that's the show. I hope you liked it. Bye, friends.